Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour, and today is Wednesday, January 27th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or listening through the archives. As we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered in my over 46 years of doing therapy. These tools are gratefully available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages that says Start Here, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? You can also download the actual worksheet process. You can also download a host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through that process. And you can go to your app store and type in the 3 words HeartLand Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app that has the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet, and a copy of the Drago and Klingon game, all available in the same app, completely free and private. We encourage people to do that soon and often because when they do, it might raise questions. They might have comments. They might have testimonials. And that's the purpose for us being here 5 days a week. Current format is 2 hours a day to answer those questions, to field those comments and testimonials, and to facilitate people in getting better and better at using and applying these tools to modify their emotions, to improve the quality of their life and their relationships, one situation at a time, one worksheet at a time, one breath session at a time. So, we've also made the commitment to read a Course in Miracles lesson, one each day for the entire year. And today is the 27th day of January, 2021, so that means we're on lesson 27. And the lesson for today reads, Above all else, I want to see. The commentary reads, Today's idea expresses something stronger than mere determination. It gives vision priority among our desires. And here by the word vision, they mean accurate vision, to see what actually is rather than the distortions of perception. You may feel hesitant about using the idea on the grounds that you're not sure you really mean it. That does not matter. The purpose of today's exercises is to bring the time when the idea will be wholly true a little nearer. So if we just move in the direction of making it more and more true for ourselves, that above all else we want to see, we're getting closer to the day when that will be our greatest desire. To see everything as it was created, to see the truth of creation, of ourselves, our role in creation, our connection to everyone and everything. If that's my greatest desire long enough, that will be my actuality. The commentary continues and says, there may be great temptation to believe that some sort of sacrifice is being asked of you when you say you want to see above all else. If you become uneasy about the lack of reservation involved, then add these statements. Vision has no cost to anyone. And if fear of loss still persists, add further, vision can only bless. Vision has no cost to anyone, and vision can only bless. The idea for today needs many repetitions for maximum benefit. It should be used at least every half an hour and more if possible. You might try for every 15 or 20 minutes. It's recommended that you set a definite time interval for using the idea when you wake or shortly afterwards, and then attempt to adhere to that throughout the day. It will not be difficult to do this even if you are engaged in conversation or otherwise occupied at the time. You can still repeat one short sentence to yourself without disturbing anything. The real question is, how often will you remember? How much do you want today's idea to be true? Answer one of these questions and you've answered the other. You will probably miss several applications or perhaps quite a number. Do not be disturbed by this, but do try to keep on your schedule from then on. If only once during the day you feel that you were perfectly sincere while you were repeating today's idea, you can be sure you have saved yourself many years of effort. So today's lesson is, above all else, I just want to see. I want to see accurately. If I have any fear, any sense that that might mean a level of sacrifice, I tell myself, vision has no cost to anyone. Vision can only bless. And then I work to establish that repetition of today's thought every time the interval comes up. We've also committed to reviewing Pam Grout's book, A Course in Miracles Experiment. Her chapter 27 is titled, Writing a Different Caption. She quotes John O'Donohue. He says, "There is a quiet light that shines in every heart. It is what illuminates our minds to see beauty, our desire to seek possibility, and our hearts to love life." John O'Donohue. Pam writes, each week the New Yorker on the last page offers a blank cartoon. Readers are invited to compose and submit clever captions. When I wrote this, for example, the back page featured a giant gingerbread man lying in a hospital bed with 6 doctors in chef hats peering down upon him. Editors chose 3 caption finalists, and then readers vote. It never ceases to amaze me how widely varying the captions are. 1 simple cartoon, 3 astonishingly different captions. This popular contest demonstrates just how completely different individual perceptions are. We may think everyone sees the world just like we do, but au contraire, my friends. A Course in Miracles Lesson 27 says, above all else, I want to see. I want to let go of my false perceptions, my own personally captioned cartoon. I want only to see the insanely beautiful truth in everything, in everyone. That sycamore tree in my yard is literally pulsing with life. The sky overhead offers a stunning new canvas each day. Each of my fellow humanoids are, as Hafiz says, God speaking. Today, I remind myself over and over again, 4 times an hour if possible, that, quote, vision has no cost to anyone, and that every time I truly look at life without blinders, I send innumerable blessings out into the world. To see, to truly see the truth of life is to resonate with that truth. To resonate it is to strengthen the energetic impressions that resonate, that reverberate from me out into the world. every time I truly look at life without blinders, I send innumerable blessings out into the world. So that is our Course in Miracles lesson for today, Wednesday, the 27th of January, 2021, and our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, it will put a little question mark by your phone number and I'll announce you by your area code. And we appreciate every time somebody does that because it makes it far easier for us to live into our intention. The intention of this work is to be of service. How can we be of service? How can we support you? What's a question? What's a comment? I was having today is Holocaust Remembrance Day, if I remember correctly from the radio this morning. It was interesting that the listening I was doing to the radio coincided with listening I was doing to the book by Alan Cohen, The Tao Made Easy, in that in both situations, the story about the Holocaust and the people who were saved from tortures and disasters, death in the Holocaust, and the people that were not saved from it, was coinciding with Alan Cohen's discussions about what happens to us when we let politics and we let technology and we let other things destroy our lives or control our lives. They eventually destroy them. And I noticed that I was having these waves of intense negative emotions, and I realized, that's an opportunity for me to do a worksheet. That's an opportunity for me to do any one of a number of tools that are available absolutely free at whyagiain.org. And the one that came to mind several times since yesterday's show is the tool titled 3 Early Memories of Conflict. And I've had several people in my individual client cases and sessions just since yesterday's show where that specific tool is the most focused, beneficial tool for their situation. One woman this morning said to me that as she's navigating a new relationship with her new partner and they're expecting their first child in a few months, that their styles of communicating are very, very different. And what her significant other really, really wants to do is whenever there's a miscommunication or a problem, he wants to put it all on the table right now, talk it out, and get it resolved. And she talked about how she has a tendency to become overwhelmed by the intensity, the immensity of all of the different factors involved, and go into shutdown, go into overwhelm and shutdown. And as she was talking about that, and I warned, there's a time and a place for that, and there's also a danger with that in that if I don't make the commitment, if I don't live up to the commitment to come back to that issue with my partner and talk it through and talk about what was triggering me to feel overwhelmed and the need to take a time out, then what happens is these issues build up and they don't get resolved over time, and the relationship intimacy dissolves rather than expands. And she said, yeah, but here's the issue. When I was young, my dad, big guy, booming voice, very narcissistic, and he would just blast all of this negative energy into the house, and my mother's pattern for dealing with it was basically to run away and shut everything down. So I said, okay, this is a great opportunity to pick up the 3 Early Memories of Conflict tool and help you get clear about how the pattern that you're prompted to use to respond to your significant other today isn't really coming from your 30-year-old self. It's really coming from your 6, 8, 14-year-old self who was responding to early memories of conflict in the home, and you downloaded this conclusion that this is dangerous, I may not survive if I don't get it right, etc. And this is how I survive. I shut down, I go away, I call a timeout, I get overwhelmed by emotion. And the 3 Early Memories of Conflict is a worksheet that's available on the website whyagain.org that has me list 3 early memories of conflict. It doesn't matter how early in my life they were. It's just whatever comes to mind when I sit down to do this exercise. Perhaps one time I sit down to do it, the earliest is when I'm in my teens, my middle teens. Perhaps another time I remember something from 5 or 7 or 8 years old. But then I list these 3 events, and then I go back and I fill in some sentence stems for each event. Sentence stems like, if I could imagine what was going on in me as the 5-year-old when this happened, and someone were interviewing me, what would my 5-year-old self say in response to the question, who are you? What do you need? What is life about? What are relationships like? Etc., etc. And I do that. I fill in those sentence stems for each of the 3 memories of conflict. And then when I go back and I read that series of statements I've written for each of these events, if I'm like most people, what I will discover is that the conflicts I'm having in my life today as a grown adult that I thought I was responding to from the perspective of a mature adult with training in psychology and good people skills, etc., I'm not really responding to these current life situations as an adult would, as a competent, healthy, resourced psychologist would. I'm really responding to these situations more like I was a wounded 8-year-old or a scared 5-year-old with next to no resources and an entire set of beliefs that I'm not going to survive this and I need to shut down or run away or explode or implode. And if I discover that when I've used this tool, then I can go back with the Reality Management Worksheet and start dismantling some of the energies and false beliefs that I carried with me into my life today. So, we often talk about the Reality Management Worksheet, and we don't as often talk about the host of other tools and worksheets that are available on that website. So please feel free to make yourself available to download those worksheets, apply them in your life, or call us if you've got questions about them. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. How can we support you today? Susan, I believe you have your hand up.
Hi,
see if
Dr.
technology
Kim.
will let. There you go. How are you?
I'm good. I'm okay. I do have a question, and this is a wonderful lesson. Wanting to see, I have had for 3 years a damaged arm because I fell on black ice, and I've mentioned this before, and I've started seeing an energy medicine man who called himself a chiropractor, but he's very, very gentle, hardly touches in some areas, and did an assessment of how I stand and all this business. And he has been helping me just be more conscious of how much energy I'm holding in this arm. So in a way, the seeing, I'm beginning to be able to see, and I needed some help too because I've done worksheets on this arm. I do believe in the healing capacity of the body, and I'm amazed when a hangnail or a cold sore or something resolves itself fairly fast, and yet this arm has been as if jammed and tangled up inside. So when I move it certain ways, it snaps and pops and it hurts. And I'm able to play the piano, but I can't do too much because it starts hurting, and I'm thinking there is something I'm not seeing here, and I'd love to have a little help with this. I did a worksheet this morning, and I had a memory of a young woman who was in my Pilates classes. She came to me with an arm that was paralyzed. She had fallen out of a van on her arm in such a way that this is her right arm too, and she was right-handed. She had fallen and her arm was completely dead. And she came to class wanting to be well in all the ways that she could. And what she would do is this arm was just dangling there, and she would pick it up with her left hand. And when I would say, put your arms over your heads, she would haul this dead weight arm. And I felt it when she was lying on the floor. I said, may I touch your arm? She said, yeah. And I lifted it up, and it was shockingly gone. No energy there. Very heavy. I was frightened by it because it seemed almost malevolent in a way. And I know that's my interpretation, and I'm going into my own stuff there. But this young woman was 50 years old, very attractive, had hoped to be married one day, and had to come home and live with her mother and sister, and ended up taking her own life. And I have a good friend who was born with one arm missing, and she got a prophylactic arm, and she has a hook on the end of the arm, and she's a teacher at a school, and she just lives around the arm and uses the hook as much as she can, and is not shy about having it show. In summertime, she'll wear sleeveless shirts, and there's this prophylactic, whatever you call it, arm.
You mean prosthetic?
Prosthetic, yeah, arm, thanks. And I remembered this woman. I don't know what to do with that memory, but it came forcefully into my mind that she didn't want to live because she couldn't bring that. She had operations, and they were not successful. And I even wanted to say to her, I'd love you to meet my friend who has been missing an arm since birth, and look what she's done, and might you consider an amputation or something like that. I never said those things to her. We never were that close. She always came to class, and then one day she didn't, and I got a call saying she had taken her life, and the last words I had with her were, how are you doing with all this? And she said, I'm happy, I'm doing well. That's what she said. I didn't really believe her. I wondered if she was just saying that to make it true. But somehow,
So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
When you did the worksheet and you flashed on this woman and your experience with her, what emotion were you aware of?
Very sad for her, just very sad, and guilty too of not having.
Okay, so sadness and guilt would be. Sadness and guilt would be two real powerful emotions to do a whole series of worksheets on.
Yeah.
What thoughts are you using to generate guilt in this context?
Just that I wondered if I could have been more bold in suggesting things. In other words, trying to fix her. I resisted that. I did have her come to the house. We had a miracles group meeting for a while, and I invited her to come to the miracles group, but it just didn't resonate with her, and she only came to one meeting. She said she just couldn't understand what it was talking about, and we'd take time trying to explain it, but she was in a state where she was not open. So I did make some effort, but, you know, I had this idea that she might be alive if I had introduced her to my friend with the one arm and stuff like that.
Okay, so that's a wonderful thing to do a whole series of worksheets on. And since it came up in the context of you're doing a worksheet about your injured arm, chances are really good that the more of that energy that you sort through and resolve and dismantle, the better you'll do with your own arm healing.
Mm. Okay.
I mean, if there are mental, emotional energies that are stuck, stored, locked in, that are preventing your arm from healing, the thing to do is become aware of them. Loosen them up. Let them start flowing again.
I am aware that I hold that arm tensely and have to breathe and remember to relax. It's like giving myself the exercise of remembering to breathe into that arm and let it just hang loose rather than holding it to the point where it even hurts. There's so much tension. So yeah, there's a lot going on in there, and I haven't accessed it nearly. But I do believe it can be beginning,
right? It's just the beginning when you start doing that kind of work, and then you can branch off into, okay, well, so how would my life be different if my arm were completely healed? What might I do? How might I engage the world differently if my arm was completely healed? There's another set of worksheets to do around that. There might be a moving forward aspect, that some part of you is not comfortable moving forward or fears you might be leaving someone or something behind if you move forward. All those kinds of things can be done, but begin where you've already begun, which is you did the worksheet and you had this memory of this woman and you've got guilt. And then, you know, we have questions like, okay, so does a person who failed to act on her intuition, which might have saved the life of a woman with, you know, an injured arm or an atrophied arm, does that person deserve to live a healthy, happy, productive life? And there'll be a part of you that says, no, you don't deserve.
Yeah,
that's the part that's generating the guilt.
That's so true.
And that part of you needs a voice, needs to be heard, needs to come out in the worksheets or the targeted journaling.
Yeah. Right. That's true. There's also another revelation I had during the worksheet is that I've been carrying something with that arm that I can't carry anymore, or it's too heavy or it's hurting, but I don't know what that is. So that just means it's like a sense of responsibility or something I want to let go of. So, yeah, maybe I called you too soon, didn't do enough work first.
I don't know how you just reached that last conclusion. What are you talking about?
There's so much that I could do with it that I didn't do before calling you. So now I'm feeling guilty to hog radio show time asking you these questions.
Okay,
Thank you for laughing, Dr. Tim.
In the process of trying to help you diminish your guilt, you have found a way to turn it into increasing guilt. Okay, well, you're skillful. I mean, I do concede to you in this area. My doctorate and my 46 years of training do not give me a leg up on you in terms of handling guilt. You are by far the master of guilt, and I am just a novice. So in this area, I submit to being taught. I will be your student. Teach me about your guilt. Let me know how, in this brief conversation, where I went in with the goal of helping you dismantle or put down some guilt. You found a way to turn it into increasing your guilt.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
How did you do that?
I don't know what.
It's like a game of chess, and we're 3 moves in, and you've checkmated me. How did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I think if you were able to get take a poll, ask the people on hold or who are listening or the people who hear this in the archives, I would be willing to bet the vast majority of them would find this conversation useful, helpful, inspiring. And yet you've found a way to turn it into generating guilt that you shouldn't have called. How did you do that? What is the thought process you're using to make this seem like a bad thing that you called?
Are you asking me? Because I can tell you.
I'm asking you literally. How is it that you say I shouldn't have called? I should have done more work first. What is it that I said or that you took from it that has you feeling that this is a bad thing that you called?
There are so many obvious more worksheets that need to be done, and I called you after doing 2 worksheets on my arm, one this morning and one a couple of days ago. And it's pretty clear that in all the years I've been on this radio show that I ought to know to do more worksheets before I call you up.
Right,
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I think it's highly beneficial when you call and talk about either your questions about worksheets or the worksheets you've already done, and you're somehow saying it's not beneficial, that you should wait until your issue is resolved before you call. And I don't understand how you've reached that conclusion.
Okay, I guess I didn't really believe you, and that's another worksheet.
You didn't believe what?
That my calls are beneficial. Yeah. Oh, Tim, this is terrible. This is getting embarrassing. Yeah.
Okay, so somehow, this leads me back to the question that I posed. Does a woman, let's just say that you are really holding this belief that this woman probably didn't need to die if you had just offered her your suggestion about having an amputation and getting a prosthetic, and that you have logged this, that the news of this woman taking her life resonated dynamics in you, and you logged into this belief that if you had acted differently, she would still be alive, so therefore it's your fault she's dead.
That's a big issue, and I've done that before. I had a beloved brother-in-law who took his own life, and I always thought they were hints. Why didn't I speak openly to him about his depression? I didn't feel it was my place, and I confused that with the urge to fix and help, and I blew it with my daughter again this morning. I did the good thing of saying, I have a thought. You want to hear it? And she said yes. And I told it, and she got mad. So, you were telling me about your son and how you bit your tongue. And anyway, there's so much stuff going on here. I know, I'm all over the place.
Let's just explore this a little bit and help you say, okay, what if there is this energy in you?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it and trauma-based. We don't know exactly the roots of the trauma, but it's energy that's stuck in you that's feeding a conclusion that says at least one, perhaps multiple people in your life are dead because you did the wrong thing or you didn't do what you knew was the right thing. And as a result, you're holding this energy that's fueling this thought of it's all your fault, this guilt, and that some of that is now lodged in your sore arm.
Yeah.
preventing the healing of the arm.
Yeah.
And so you just start letting yourself do the mind shifter on that. It's safe and healing for me to live a healthy, happy life even though I didn't prevent this suicide, or even though I didn't, act in the perfect way here, or you do worksheets on your guilt around the thought that it's your fault this person took her life. It was your act of omission that cost the world this person's life, energy. Mm-hmm. And start doing the worksheets on that and see if it has any impact on changes in sensation in your arm, and see how honest you can be with yourself about these thoughts fueling the negative judgment.
Wow,
I mean, these are the kinds of things that we often hide from ourselves at all costs.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a hydra, because my arm is also saying, I don't want to hold this anymore. I don't want this responsibility. I'm sick and tired of this responsibility. I am going AWOL. I'm not going to be a functional arm. I'm not going to do this anymore. It'll be a relief if I don't have to do this anymore.
If you don't have to do what anymore? If you don't have to do what anymore?
Fix, help, do the right thing, say the right thing, rescue, whatever it is. I don't want to worry about anybody anymore. I don't want to worry about my daughter and my grandkids and my son. Don't want to. It's a whole pile of other worksheets. Too much responsibility. And it isn't my responsibility. I just think it is.
So you mentioned Hydra, and just so anybody listening will explain that there's a mythological Greek character called the Hydra, and the problem with the Hydra as a monster is that if you cut off its head, several more, depending upon the version of the story, several more heads grow back. And so it is not a useful thing to cut off the head of a Hydra, because it just produces more problems. Well, in this work, we talk about the Hydra as any worksheet I do, where it also helps me become aware of a wide variety of other issues.
Yeah.
And so one worksheet might lead into 25 other worksheets, or one worksheet might lead into 5 other worksheets. So that's just an explanation for those listening to the show, that the Hydra is a reference to the fact that when I start looking at my issues, if my eyes are open, if my willingness is up to par, I will see how one issue in my life is connected to many others.
Yeah.
And again, in this work, willingness is a key ingredient. It's what Michael Ryce calls the cosmic grease. It's what will keep my process moving forward. And my resistance is the thing that will shut the whole process down. If I am resistant to feeling my pain, my fear, my sadness, my hurt, my guilt, my shame, my confusion, I will block myself from seeing the very things I need to see and be aware of in order to step into healing. And because we're all given free will, we have that ability. We can shut down our healing process, and no one can make us do our work or do our healing. We must be willing, otherwise healing, integration, growth, understanding, awareness will not increase.
Dr. Kim, when you started reading the lesson today and you read a commentary or something, and then you said, I found I don't know if you were talking about yourself or someone else, you found yourself in a state of loss of peace or upset in yourself. Was that you were talking about? I didn't follow that, and I wanted to make sure I understood before we go back to this.
Well, I'm trying to remember what I said and what you might be referring to. Today's idea expresses something stronger than mere determination. It gives vision priority among our desires. You may feel hesitant about using this idea on the grounds that you're not really sure you mean it. And that does not matter. The purpose of today's exercises is to bring us closer to the time when meaning it is the truth. We want to bring that willingness a little bit closer to realization. There may be great temptation to believe that some sort of sacrifice is being asked of you, and if that happens, repeat this phrase: vision has no cost to anyone. And then if it still persists, there's a fear of loss, then say this: vision can only bless. Was it in that? Did I start talking?
No,
or
it was
you repeating the sentence without disturbing anything? The idea about how often will you repeat it?
No, it was, I thought you had become, you were making your own comments about the reading, and you said this led me to a state of upset, and then I was thinking about this, that, or the other. That might, I misheard something, and it doesn't matter. Hearing that again is really good and useful. It doesn't answer the question I had, but yeah.
Well, because it says, if you become uneasy about this, your willingness, if you have upset about your unwillingness to fully commit to this statement, that I, above all else, I want to see, it's probably because you have a fear of loss, or that the cost of dedicating yourself to that above everything else, you want to see life accurately, you want to see the truth of life. Then you repeat this: vision does not cost anyone. It has no cost to anyone. And vision can only bless.
Yeah, it isn't. It's good to hear that, but that isn't. And never mind. Just forget it.
Was it something in the Pam Grout writing or reading?
It was something
where you
that
write
I
a
thought
different caption.
It was something I thought you were saying about yourself.
Okay, I'm lost then. Maybe somebody else has a hand up, or could put a hand up and say what they. Maybe they heard it too, but I'm not tapping into something that would be useful. Okay.
You got right from that into talking about one of your clients in a Zoom meeting or something, and so there was a little juncture, and I wanted to double back, but it doesn't matter. It's just doesn't matter.
Well, the next thing I went into after the lesson was using the 3 early memories of conflict tool.
And how did you get there? It was you're getting there that I thought you were talking about something about yourself, but maybe you weren't. Maybe you were still reading Pam Grout.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was a smooth segue. I think that was, I had thought about bringing in the 3 early memories of conflict because I'd had several patients in the last 2 days. Ellen, do you have a comment for us related to this?
Yes, I do. I just remember you were talking about the Holocaust, that this is Holocaust Remembrance Day, and maybe it was something in you're talking about that.
It was leading up to that.
Does that ring a bell, Susan?
Yeah, it was just before that, but sorry to take you on this tangent. I thought it might be easy to access, but it isn't.
Well, it now that Ellen brings in the Holocaust Remembrance Day, I was talking about how it was difficult for me to listen to the stories of the Holocaust. And it was difficult for me to listen to Alan Cohen talking about some of the horrors that happen when we let technology run our lives rather than enhance our lives. So he was talking about some of the things that are happening in different countries where the technology is taken over, and how many, like the leading cause of death for teenagers in America is texting while driving, etc. And I remembered feeling this discomfort. And the discomfort was enough that I wanted to just shut everything off and not listen to it, not listen to the book, not listen to the Holocaust Memorial Remembrance Day. And I pointed out that that's my cue to do some tapping, breathing, and worksheets.
Okay, you're on it. That's it. Okay.
And it's related to my 3 early memories of conflict, where my pattern of surviving through conflict was to hide or shut it down or become the peacekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that I benefited tremendously from doing multiple rounds over years of that 3 early memories of conflict worksheet, and then doing the targeted journaling, the mind shifter work, the EFT tapping, the reality management worksheets to dismantle all of the false beliefs and the traumatic energies I had around early conflicts. So today, instead of turning off the radio because I don't want to hear about all of the horrible things that happened, and there's actually a children's book that's been written about the Holocaust, but it's focused on the relationship between these 2 young people, and it's about how somebody saved a whole bunch of children. But it's written in the context of this horrible set of historic events. And so, instead of shutting that off, because I've done so much of the work with the reality management worksheet and the 3 early memories of conflict, I was able to sit with my own internal discomfort and listen to the Holocaust remembrance and the story about the new children's book that talks about it, and listen all the way through the chapter from The Tao Made Easy by Alan Cohen, where he was talking about things that were resonating, a lot of emotional discomfort in me.
That's it.
So
Thank you.
I was just saying that it's, I'm trying to present the frequent reinforcements of the idea that these tools are powerful, and I'm changing my life for the better by applying these tools in my life. So I can stay in difficult situations longer. I can resolve energies I've carried for weeks, months, years, or even decades. And as I resolve those energies, I have more liberty about how to respond the next time a similar situation comes up in life.
Thanks. That's it. We caught it. Thank you, Ellen, because the Holocaust thing was the ticket. Yeah, and the Alan Cohen book, right?
Thank you, Ellen.
Sure, and I also just wanted to mention, Susan, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, that, the last time I texted you, it was about our friend Rose, and you have the same kind of reaction, feeling like you have completely abandoned this woman who maybe needs your help. And it just reminded me when you started talking about someone that you invited to one of your groups, but it just didn't resonate with her. I actually thought you were speaking of her initially, and I realized, well, no, it's because she didn't take her life. So it was like, and so here's like yet another person in your life that now, I recognize that you're feeling like you have abandoned. So this is a very powerful issue that, you're bringing to life. I just wanted to mention that.
Thanks.
Sure.
Well, and of course, Susan, if you're like most of us, if you identify that you've got issues about feeling guilty and blaming yourself for abandoning someone, it will probably lead you eventually, if you hold the willingness and you do the work, it will probably lead you to those memories in your life where you felt you had been abandoned and you downloaded traumatic energies from it.
Absolutely. They're already pouring in. Yep. That's true. The terror of that, yeah. I shouldn't use that word. It's so dramatic, but anyway.
Well, I think it is, because when I'm a child, my fears, my intense fears, do reach the level of terror quite easily.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter how old I am or how much older I am when those energies get resonated, they feel exactly the way they did when I was 3 or 5 or 8 or 12 years old, because they're in my system, associated with that level of competence and worldview and mindset. So they feel to me exactly the way they did when I was 5, even though I might be 65.
It's
and when
such an amazing phenomenon.
Yeah, and when they get activated, if it's an energy packet or trauma packet that I downloaded when I was 5, and I'm 65 when it gets activated, I don't have access to my 65-year-old coping skills and life experiences. Mm-hmm. They're offline when I'm flooded with those 5-year-old trauma energies and emotions.
And what's weird is it is just a feeling. It has it's like inchoate. It's just a big, dark cloud. It goes, whoom, settles in there. It's amazing, but the tools give it outlines. And if you give it an outline, then it has a boundary. And then if it has a boundary, then it can be hauled in, and the boundary can be drawn in like drawing a drawstring around a hood or something, and the opening gets smaller and smaller, and you get a handle on it again. But it's true, you don't have any equipment, just it flies in and lands right on you without any warning sometimes.
Well, and when you're talking about that energy, it leads me to make the comment that you might be dealing with something that got downloaded when you were pre-verbal.
Wow. Yeah, I have to think about that. The memory that came to me, I was definitely verbal. I was probably 8 or 9. Mother ran away and disappeared, and we never knew where she was or how long she would be gone. And I just remember standing by a window near the front door, looking out into the street at night and just wishing that she would show up around the corner and just standing there.
Well, so remember that by the time you were 8 or 9 years old, you had your language.
Yeah.
And yet it's entirely possible that by the time you were 8 or 9 years old, if you had, like most of us have had families with deep issues, you probably had pre-verbal times in your life where your needs weren't met or traumas occurred to your physical energy system or to the emotional energy system in the house. And so this event that happened when you were 8 or 9 and Mom left the house might have been resonating those pre-verbal, that whoomp kind of energy that you already had in your system. These things aren't isolated. They aren't isolated. Yeah. Everything in my system is connected to every other thing in my system.
Right. Whoa, okay. That's entirely true. I mean, possible. Can't do anything with it right now, but I'll remember that.
It's just enough to have that softening and openness and awareness. I'm turning on the microphone for area code 828. Is this Magda? Did you have a comment you wanted to add in our last few minutes? If you did, you're muted.
I'm muted?
Now you're back.
Can you hear me? Okay. This has been a marvelous discussion. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Dr. Tim. I'm going to go back to where Dr. Tim asked you, Susan, how do you do that? How do you switch from not feeling guilty to finding something to feel guilty about? Do you remember that this morning?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I got so strongly that underneath, you know how creative our ego minds are about holding on to the status quo, and what I got as an answer was, well, maybe she doesn't feel worthy of being able to let go of the fear because she was supposed to be perfect. She was supposed to save these people, and she wasn't perfect. And so she's not worthy of feeling good and having her arm function and so forth. So just something to think about there.
Thank you, Magda.
Yep.
Yeah, there's so much shame bubbling up in me, just incredible waves of shame. So that's just more work. So thank you for uncovering that.
You are at the edge of great bounty, sweetie. You've got so much out of you. Yeah. Blessings in the work you're doing. Okay, that was it for me.
Thanks, Magda.
Thank you, Magda. Thank you, Ellen.
Sure, and I just wanted to state my agreement with Magda. Susan, you're doing such great work. Your willingness is so apparent. And, you're just going to get more free and more free and more free. You can see it coming.
I'm breathing that in. Thank you, Ellen. Those are kind and loving words. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You deserve them. I appreciate more than
kind and loving words. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You deserve them. I appreciate more than you know.
That's Dr. Tim's line.
Oh, really?
Deserving. He hasn't. Yeah. Wait till you hear him say it. He does it very nicely.
Whenever anybody says thank you, I say, well, you're very welcome and deserving. And when we have people on the internet show who are doing all kinds of work and they're coming from a space of feeling less than, I usually say, well, you're very welcome and far more deserving than you yet know, but you will eventually. Well, thank you both for the call. We're down to our last minute. I will mute you so you can listen and get ready to make the transition to our second hour with Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeanie Ryce.
Thank you, Dr.